This is OwlUp, where learning happens in minutes, not hours. For a deeper journey, explore all our courses at owlup.co. Now, let's dive in. Welcome back to Mental Health First Aid, Recognizing Crisis. This is Chapter 3, and today we're diving into psychosis, which can be one of the more confusing mental health crises to spot if you don't know what to look for. We'll break down the key signs that someone might be experiencing a break from reality, so you can recognize when immediate help is needed. Let's get into it. Right now, somewhere in your city, a person is hearing a voice that no one else can hear, and they're not crazy, they're in a medical emergency. In this episode, we'll explore how a quiet, early change in behavior can be your first and best clue that psychosis is starting. Sometimes the earliest sign isn't dramatic at all. It's a subtle zooming out from life. A student who loved group projects now emails the professor to work alone. A reliable coworker starts turning off their camera in every meeting, claiming connection issues that never quite get fixed. A roommate who always had music playing begins sitting in silence, curtains closed, meals skipped or eaten at odd hours. These shifts can look like stress, burnout, or just being in a mood, and often they are. But when they stack up, social withdrawal, sleep flipping to nights, suddenly dropping hobbies, unusual suspicion about others, they can mark the very first phase of psychosis. Think of it less as a switch being flipped and more as a gradual change in the settings of how someone relates to the world, long before voices or vivid beliefs show up. Sometimes what changes first isn't what someone does, but how they describe their inner world. They might say, "Things feel off. I don't feel like myself," or "It's like the world is slightly tilted," yet struggle to give concrete examples. Others report their thoughts feel louder, jumbled, or oddly echoey, as if their own mental notes are starting to overlap. Sleep may get stranger, vivid, unsettling dreams, or waking at 3 a.m. with a strong sense that something important just happened, even when nothing did. These vague, hard-to-name experiences can be early psychological static before more obvious symptoms appear. You might notice that alongside that static, everyday tasks start to feel strangely effortful or oddly significant. A simple email draft gets written, deleted, rewritten, then abandoned because the wording doesn't feel safe. Crossing a street suddenly requires triple-checking the lights, the cars, the people on the sidewalk, not from typical caution, but from a feeling that something hidden could go wrong. It's not just anxiety, it can be a subtle shift in how much importance the brain is assigning to random details. In early psychosis, the brain can begin to mistag neutral sights and sounds as meaningful. A passing comment on a live stream, a lyric in a song, or a number on a receipt may start to feel specifically meant for me. At first, people often know this sounds odd. They might laugh it off. I know it's just a coincidence, but it won't leave my mind. Over time, those coincidences can knit together into a private storyline that feels increasingly convincing and harder to dismiss. Concentration and memory can wobble too. Someone who used to breeze through documentation or coding reviews may reread the same paragraph without absorbing it, or miss obvious steps in a workflow they once knew cold. They may describe it as their thoughts slipping away or not sticking. This can show up as dropping grades, missed deadlines, or needing much more time for simple tasks, sometimes misread as laziness or lack of motivation. Emotional signals can also get distorted. A neutral text, "Can we talk later?" might suddenly feel loaded with menace. A coworker's glance in a meeting can spark hours of worry. Did they just figure something out about me? On the flip side, serious problems might barely register or trigger a surprisingly flat response, as if the emotional volume knob is turned too low or too high at random. Crucially, many people in this phase still have moments of doubt about these experiences. That flicker of, "Is this really happening the way I think?" is often the window where support, validation, and gentle reality checking can make the biggest difference, long before a full crisis emerges. Think about the tiny glitches you can notice from the outside. A usually punctual friend starts missing meetups, then shows up one day and keeps checking behind them, pausing mid-sentence as if listening to something you can't hear. When you ask what's up, they hesitate, then say, "It's complicated," and quickly change the subject. Or a teammate in your dev channel begins posting long, late-night messages that circle around the same worry, someone watching their commits, a pattern in ticket numbers, an unnamed they making decisions about them, without giving clear examples. In these moments, you don't have to diagnose. You can stay with the concrete. You might say, "I've noticed you seem more on edge lately and it looks exhausting. Do you want to tell me what it feels like, even if it's hard to explain?" That kind of invitation gives them permission to share specifics, like trouble sorting thoughts or a creeping sense of danger, without forcing them to label it. A bit like a musician hearing their instrument go subtly out of tune before the audience notices, you're listening for those early, quiet notes that something in their mental soundscape has shifted. Early detection is starting to look less like crisis response and more like preventative care. Apps that notice shifts in sleep, speech, or typing rhythm could quietly flag something's off, the way a fitness tracker nudges you about heart rate. For teams, this means rethinking check-ins. Not "Are you okay?" once a year, but lightweight, routine well-being scans built into workflows. The future isn't about catching people breaking, it's about noticing micro-detours and steering back sooner. So maybe the next step isn't becoming an expert on labels, but on signals. Like learning a city's side streets, you start to notice quieter routes into support, asking about sleep instead of symptoms, sharing your own rough days, knowing local crisis lines before you need them. Curiosity becomes a kind of map, turning "something's wrong" into "here's where we start." Before next week, ask yourself, when I notice early signs of being more withdrawn, not sleeping, or feeling suspicious of others, what specific signals in my own body, mood, or thoughts could be my early warning lights for psychosis? If one of those signals showed up tonight, who are the 1 to 2 people, by name, I'd be willing to tell? And what exact words would I use to start that conversation? What's one small, concrete change I can try this week, like setting a regular sleep time, limiting late-night scrolling, or tracking odd or distressing thoughts, that might help protect my mind when I'm feeling stressed or overwhelmed? This was OwlUp, your daily step forward. This series continues with more chapters on OwlUp.co. Visit OwlUp.co to access the complete course and continue your learning journey. See you there!